I was absolutely shocked that the gear came down and held. I didn't expect it. My plan all along was for crash landing at Ubon.
509 on March 50 years ago was one of the most moving experiences of my life. It was my 50th mission. The other 50 missions of getting shot at, coming back with holes. But up until 509, we didn't really lose many people.
I went from being a regular crew member to basically being an aerovac patient in about an instant that the crew had to take care of.
Well, let me tell you about 509 that night. We were in the area, and we were flying totally blacked out. It was a dark night, but I knew by the hills and the territory that this is that bad area. There's a 57 millimeter right on our orbit. So I had my Mark 6s ready, and the first time it shot, I was throwing them out, and I go, "There's that guy again." And he was always close. And I knew I had less than a second to call a break. And as we were flying around, a little haze developed, light cloud level.
We knew it was close. But tracer, fine. If it's tracer, we can get out of the way. He fired 2 rounds. I saw the muzzle flash. No tracer. Boom. And it was not a question, have we been hit? It shook that airplane.
Out of nowhere, there was this blinding light, and I thought, maybe the whole aircraft had done blown up. I had no idea what had happened, and I remember thinking I probably just got killed, and being a little upset about that.
The next thing I know, I was on the floor. It happened so fast, a millisecond. I was on the floor. I opened my eyes, I couldn't see a thing. I felt I was right in back of the pilot's seat, and I could feel his seat, and the aircraft was in turmoil.
Cockpit filled with smoke. Could barely see the co-pilot, flight engineer. The heat level was probably 15, 20 degrees warmer from the blast.
And my thought was, I was up there with no parachute, and I had to get back to the parachutes because we were probably going down. There was hydraulic fluid squirting from the pipes in the ceiling. I got it on my face, and total smoke.
The trim for the altitude hole went full nose down. And the co-pilot and I took a hold of the yoke, and both of us pulled back. We turned the autopilot off, and it didn't correct it. We went to emergency on the trim. It didn't correct it. We went back to normal. It didn't correct it. I turned the autopilot back on, turned it back off, and it broke it. And we were able to trim it.
I managed my way back to the booth, and I was thinking about getting a parachute, and then I looked inside, and I saw Luke Kuhn and Ed Bunch in the booth trying to hold a chair of the TV up to keep it from falling through the hole, and with Gary Chandler, and he was slumped down.
I opened my eyes just a bit to try and see what was going on, and I realized that I was looking at floor level, and I couldn't quite figure out why. And I didn't realize that I had basically almost fallen through the hole that had been made by the shell in the floor where I was sitting.
I immediately went and tried to pull the seat, and I said, "Guys, it's not going to come. Let's get him out of there." And Lou held the seat, and I think someone else too, and Ed Bunch and I unstrapped Gary and pulled him out. His leg hardly looked attached to his foot.
I wasn't feeling any pain at that moment. I think my whole system was in shock.
Everybody checked in but the booth. And a few minutes later, I asked for the booth to check in. A couple minutes later, maybe 30 seconds later, it was, "Damn it, booth, check in." So my roommate was in the back. It was his next to last flight. It turned out to be his last flight. He had shrapnel through the front of his neck, out the back of his neck, and he says, everybody in the booth is okay. It's just got a big hole in the floor. So he was in total shock. I mean, but everyone would be back there. I mean, I can't tell you what happened in the back at all, because I was going through every emergency procedure in my head that I could think of. But we knew where the damage was. I never changed the flap setting because I was afraid to disrupt the wings, because I didn't know if they'd been damaged or not. I didn't change the airspeed. We flew back with that airspeed and that flap setting almost all the way down to landing, when I had to slow just a little bit to get it on the ground.
Well, we landed, and it was kind of uneventful landing, because Dave he can sit down C-130 and barely skid the tires. I mean, he would let the co-pilot land a few times, and the plane would land like this. Dave would land it, and it was a perfect landing every time. It was just so neat.
Even though I had 50 harrowing missions before that, I was never so scared and nervous as that night.
And by the time the engineer and I cleared the aircraft, the ambulances had already left. That was fast, because it didn't take us long to get out of the airplane either.
We landed, and actually it wasn't that bad a landing, but that incident pretty much defined a lot in my life. I was scheduled to fly the next day, and I went over to ops. I don't know if it was the ops officer or the commander said, you can take a break. And I said, I think I will. And we actually had a counselor on the base who was 130 Gunship TV operator. And I saw him for about a week and a half, and then which helped, but I never flew a mission I didn't shake after that. But I flew 110 missions, so I went back and flew 60 more missions after a couple of weeks, and had some more harrowing experiences.
I think all of us flew again. Those who weren't injured flew again within the next day or two. I think Roger flew the next day, but I know that I continued to fly. We all flew. That's what we did. Short term, it's hard to say. Long term, you pay the price. 10 years ago, we met and we decided we'd all go to the VA, and we did. And our wives have suffered for our service. They should be anointed with something, really, because it was difficult for many of them, my wife included. But I think we're in a good place now.
I never really saw anyone about it, a lot of it, till just the last 10 years. And so I'm sure I wasn't as nice to live with as I could have been.
I'm just very thankful that, I was flying with a capable crew, and extremely capable crew that I could trust. And they not only took care of me, but they took good care of the aircraft and got me safely back to U-Bahn.
I've had 3 heroes in my life. And after the service, my hero was David Hobgood. He was just incredible. And now, 10 years ago, the word got out that our plane, 509, was here at Hurlburt Field. And Gary Chandler and Dave Hobgood got together and said, well, let's maybe get together. We have a 40-year reunion. I got a call one day, and it was David Hobgood. Hiya, Roger. This is Dave Hobgood. And God himself could have called me, and I wouldn't have been more excited to hear that voice. And it was pretty awesome. And this crew, I felt guilty all these years. It was my job to call out the AAA, and we got hit, and a couple of crew members got wiped out, and I felt really guilty about that. But 10 years ago at our 40th reunion, I kind of mentioned that, sorry, Gary, about your feet, and Lee about getting jabbed in the eye, and there was no animosity, you know, and it was hugely uplifting to me and made me feel a whole lot better. But that's my story, I guess.
Hey, Gary. Yeah. How's your gray hair? Yeah, I'm growing gray hair now, I'll tell you. Hey, I don't have my color TV back here. What color is the Trip A this year? Still red. Still red? Right. That's red Viper this year. I gotta get me a color too. I miss all the fun back here.